Welcome to the Providing More podcast. I'm your host, Brent Saunders from PM Title. In today's episode, we interview Brian Teyssier, aka Brian Sells Pittsburgh. He began selling real estate in 2007 and has now represented thousands of buyers and is the most positively reviewed Zillow realtor in all of Pennsylvania. To learn about how he began and grew his real estate business, let's take a listen. Brian, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. We talked a little bit before the podcast about how Pittsburgh's average list price is around $219, which is very similar to Columbus. Columbus right now, we're hovering around 8,113 agents, and Pittsburgh, I think, is a little over 7,000 agents. So very similar markets. So I'm excited to get a chance to talk to you and kind of pick your brain a little bit and see what, how you built up to where you are. So to that end, can you kind of take me back? I think you started around 2007. Can you kind of take me back to when you first got into the industry?
Yeah, correct. Thanks for having me. In 2007, the market looks crappy. Let's get our real estate license. So I was never one for making great decisions, as you can tell. But I figured if you could make it, if you could, get some tools, hone your skills. Wow, it's a down market. When it becomes an up market, you are going to be like riding the wave, like an inside trader's tip on a stock, so to speak. And that's pretty much what happened. In 2007 is when I got licensed 13 years ago. It was lean, super lean, heavy buyer's market, but just cut my teeth, grinded on. I took some steps as far as coaching and other stuff, and as an early adopter of technology and social media. That's kind of the summary of who Brian Teyssier is and how he went from being a nobody to a relatively top guy, not the top person in Pittsburgh, but a relatively top name.
So yeah, last year, number 32 overall as an individual?
22, but nobody's counting.
I apologize. That's a big difference, right? So what were you doing before real estate?
You're a stat guy, so I know you understand that.
Oh, absolutely.
So how I got into real estate, was that the question?
Yeah, what were you doing before?
Yeah, so I was flipping houses with my own two hands. So I would buy houses, and this is before it was cool. This is before there was YouTube, before there were TV shows, before there were books, before there were seminars. I mean, I would have to take a piece of plumbing to Home Depot and show it to the guy and say, I need this, but not rusted out. I didn't. My father's a car salesman. My mom was a waitress her whole life. So we had no real estate anything. I mean, they bought one house and they still live in that house. Wow. So we didn't even know which end of a hammer to swing. So I started flipping houses. I did relatively good there for a couple years, and then the margins, I had a minimum margin that I had to make because it took me a year to flip a house. So I got my real estate license to maximize my profit, being a relatively savvy entrepreneur. And then the margins got so small. I mean, I don't know if it was because of the internet, everything I just mentioned, TV shows, courses, whatever, everybody started doing it, and the margin shrunk. And I was representing some of these flippers as an agent, and their margin may have only been $10,000.
Wow,
that's 2 price reductions.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. And then what happened was their margins got so small, I just couldn't justify doing it anymore. I mean, when I first started flipping houses, I'd open up the MLS. There must have been 10 houses that I could have picked that would have worked with the margins. And then as time went on, there were no houses that I found. So I figured I have my real estate license. Let's get this thing started.
Now, I know that you obviously you pivoted there a little bit and ended up going into and becoming a realtor. Now, were you chasing anything off market at that time?
No, I've never heard of off-market deals before then, and I was always I went to classes and seminars and learned about sheriff sales. I went to a sheriff sale with cash in hand one time, but I was so scared. Wisely, it was a better decision of my life, did not pull the trigger. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing at a sheriff sale, and I knew those liens came with those properties, and there were guys in suits there with laptops that knew what they were doing, and I was like, this is not me. I got to get the hell out of here before the sheriff gets me.
So what was your experience? I mean, where did you go first? I mean, did you already have some buddies that were agents that you could at least go, hey, what brokerage should I go to? Or, how do I start gaining some traction? How do I get leads?
Right. So the brokerage I went on with was ERA Showcase Homes, and the top agent there was a baller. I bought my first foreclosure from him and his team, so to speak. So when I got my license, I didn't know anything else. So I just went on with those guys. And his name is Mark Hanlovich, and he was a baller. He had all kind of designations, the CRS designation. He was a realtor and just all these things I had never heard of before. So I saw he was doing all this business. I figured, why recreate the wheel? It was already created. Instead of me taking a path to success that zigzags, I'm just going to go straight to the top and do what he does. So I became a realtor. I earned my certified residential specialist designation in person. And like, you have to sell so many millions of dollars to qualify for this one. And they have online now. They didn't have online then, and I'm glad they didn't, because the in-person experience of earning these designations is unparalleled. It definitely costs a lot more money. So you had to take like 5 core classes, and you would always pass the test at the end. That was not a problem. But none of them were in Pittsburgh. They were all over on the other side of the state, Harrisburg. So I'm making no money. I'm barely making ends meet. And as soon as I got some money, I would drive over there, stay one night, get up early, drive over, stay there one night. So it was a 2-day course, and then drive home that night. I'd rough it, grinding it out, so to speak. I'd make a little bit more money. I'd go take the next one. I'd sell a couple more houses. And then I got that designation. And I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And that learning in that course, in that room, listen to that instructor who was a top level realtor, current practicing realtor, was unparalleled. Like, you can ask them, it was open season to ask them questions, whereas, you just don't get that online at all.
No, that's really interesting. I mean, again, especially if those, back then they were so expensive and so time consuming. I mean, time is money too. And especially as somebody that, you're not getting a paycheck while you're at those classes and everything. So that's a huge investment of just, not just your money, but your time too. And that's impressive that you saw that early on in your career, that, that education was going to create such a payoff on the back end by putting that time and effort and grinding out on the front end.
Right. And I think education is so crucial. So I was a C- student throughout my public schooling life, and C- was like, that was a good year. No college, because schooling wasn't for me. So I see a lot of people now that, they're not good in school, and they may have a low opinion of themselves, or think they're not going to survive. And that's why I like to tell everybody that I'm dumb. I am book dumb. And that doesn't mean that you can't succeed, whether it's a realtor. I can only speak as a realtor because that's what I am. If you have passion and drive, that's going to supersede this college education, which was a 4-year waste of money. You don't need that to become a realtor. Get out of school, get on with a team, earn these designations, get a coach. I never believed in education because, again, I couldn't do it. I'm book dumb until I became a realtor. And I was like, oh, now I finally like a subject. So let me go all in on education. And it has paid itself off in spades. And you talk about time and money and all that, but here's what a lot of people won't tell you, and a lot of courses won't tell you that they should, is people you meet in these courses are not in your local market usually. So I handed out my business card. I made tons of friends, and Facebook was just coming about. So I became Facebook friends. I have made enough money off of referral business from all these people that has paid off the gas money, the hotel, the food for every single class.
That's incredible. And I think that's one of the things that, I always use the phrase that your network is your net worth. And I think that a lot of people, think about that when it comes down to, oh, well, my network is, potential clients. Not thinking of referral sources could be other agents outside their market. I accidentally ran into that one time on my own. We went down to Agent 2021 2 years ago. It was Gary Vaynerchuk's presentation down in Miami. Right. And I was down there, and we're learning as much as we can for agents and kind of feed it back to them. And out of these thousands of people there, I end up in the lunch line next to a woman. We start talking, and she works for a title company down in Miami. And we traded cards, and she was like, hey, actually, I have an investor that's buying in Columbus now, and sent me the contact information and hooked us up. And again, it goes back to, being open to any opportunity, any referral source is really, really important when, again, the more people you know and more connections you have, the greater likelihood that you're going to make more money.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I go to the CRS convention once a year. It's called Celebration, because I'm a big CRS supporter. And there are a couple people I've met that are practicing realtors in different states, but the bulk of their business comes from marketing referrals, like they meet all of us, they create videos, they have a videographer with them at the convention. Who are you? Where are you at? Who are you? Where are you at? They have closed Facebook groups. This guy's making money off of referrals. And there's companies out there that will sell leads to us, and referral exchange is they collude with CRS, so to speak. They have a business relationship. So, and you don't pay anything unless they give you a lead, and you don't pay anything unless you close the deal. So it's not just other agents, but there are companies out there doing it. There are companies that are tech savvy, and they create websites and do all kind of SEO and just get all these people to come to it, sign up, and then they sell the lead to us as a referral only, which I'm all about. I don't have any problem paying referral fee. Paying upfront fees or monthly fees, like some of the big name Zillow and Realtor.com, I'm a opponent to, but I'm a proponent for paying as you deliver.
So in those first 2 years, when you 07, 08, obviously a difficult time in the real estate market and everything. So what were you, before you went and got the coaching and the mentoring, what were you doing to develop leads for yourself? How were you getting clients?
I wasn't really. I mean, my first 3 years, I probably sold 6 houses, and all 6 were my flips.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do anything. And then I only stayed with my mentor at ERA for less than a year, because that specific brokerage was just like a boutique, so to speak. They didn't have any real training programs, and I identified that I had to have some training. So I ended up jumping over to Keller Williams for a couple of years because they had excellent training. Then I started getting some leads from there. But I mean, for the mentor at ERA, what I did is I did all his open houses. I did open house every Saturday and Sunday all year round. And we're seasonal markets. We get really cold and we get really hot. It didn't matter. I would do open houses Saturday and Sunday. Sometimes if I just did them on Sunday, I would go and take all day Saturday and flyer the whole neighborhood. If it's a planned community, knock on every door, hand them a flyer, just grinding it out.
Yeah, personally, I love that. I know that open houses are kind of a polarizing topic sometimes, and a lot of our CEs down here, we talk about it, and you definitely hear different opinions. But personally, I always frame it as if I were an agent. If I were an agent, I would love it. Again, you just never know when you're going to be in the right place at the right time. And I think sometimes somebody thinks, oh well, what if I only get one buyer in a year from it? Well, but who could that person be connected to, right? You have to track that long term, and it can have exponential growth over time, because maybe their friend or family member wants to buy, and then that person has a friend or family member, and again, it can expand out and build a massive network for you.
Well, I mean, you can't look for immediate gratification from any lead source as a realtor. I mean, you can't look at, what if I only got one? What if you got 50 people to come through that open house and you get picked up 0 leads, versus your next open house, one person came through and they were a lead?
Yeah,
right?
That's a great way to look at it.
Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you're not out there shooting, they're not going to come to your couch that you're sitting on watching the football game on Sunday and ask you to go look at a house. You've got to be at that open house. And I mean, I would rather sit at home during NFL season and watch football, but I go out and do these open houses. It's only 2 hours. And it's a half-hour prep time before, a half-hour prep time after. It keeps you connected with people back and forth, what buyers want. Like, I may have went to the listing appointment and thought this house is freaking awesome, right? And then buyers come in and like, oh, what's the feedback? Oh, well, that graveyard next door is kind of a problem for us. Geez, I never even thought of that. Now, I may have mispriced the house because I didn't get like it'd be nice if you can get an open house before you even list the property to kind of get some ideas on what feedback is, but that's not how our system works. And I've picked up sellers from open houses because I would be grinding it out, handing them a flyer. They're like, we don't even know if this kid's any good. He's only been in the market 1 year, but if he's willing to knock on our door and hand out flyers, he might be somebody we're willing to entertain. So when it comes to open houses, I'm a Tom Ferry disciple, and he would always teach us about mega open houses. And that is, you get as much out of it as you put into it. So I would get as many open house signs as I could possibly find. I would start at the subject property and drive out, putting open house signs in the ground. I don't care if it was up to 6 miles away back to the highway. I would have balloons on those open house signs. If it's the summer, I would have the little small bottles of cold water to hand out. I would always have a candle. I would have a little Bluetooth speaker with music. If it was cold out, I would have a little mini coffee pot I would take with me. Anything to kind of keep them around. Brochures. I mean, that is your resume. That is you're being interviewed, is the way I look at it. And I've picked up sellers just by having these awesome open houses.
It's amazing. You literally just jumped the gun, took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that you're literally creating a resume for yourself when you go and hand out the flyers and you set up all the signs. And then again, once they're in there, now it becomes an interview. Every interaction you have is an interview. And I think that's an important way to remember, as a small business owner, everywhere you go and every conversation you have is somebody interviewing you, whether you realize it or not. So yeah, I definitely think that you hit the nail on the head with that. So are you still, in 2019, did you do open houses the same way?
Well, now that I reached a certain level, I don't have to go that much. I do open houses not to pick up buyers. I do open houses now to make my sellers happy and only to stay connected with what buyers want. Because once the goal of a top agent is to become a listing agent. It takes less work to be a listing agent. Any realtor fresh out of school can be a buyer's agent. You open the door, let them through. You might point out a couple of things, boom. But you cannot be a listing agent. You need to have tools. You need to have an understanding of the market and stuff like that. So it's been ingrained in us to become listing agents. I can go to the house one, maybe two times and never see that seller again and make that sale. Conversely, buyers, you're taking them out, failing, taking them out, failing, taking them out, failing, multiple offers, whatever.
So in those first few years, you said that there really wasn't any social media, there wasn't any YouTube, but you said you were kind of an early adopter on those platforms to leverage those for your real estate business. So when you first started doing that, what were you doing and what kind of connections were you trying to make? And were you running ads? Were you just making connections and building relationships? What were you doing?
So I first created the Facebook business page because that was what we had to do by law, and nobody was doing Facebook, no social media. Nobody. I mean, this was new to us. Like posting a photo of you and your dog was like, why would you do that? So I would come in and I thought, marketing. What would somebody want to see that's looking to buy or sell a house? What would get them to use me over person Y? And I thought a closing photo of me standing in front of the house, the client standing in front of the house, us at the closing table shaking hands. That shows that I'm not only talking the talk, but I am actually showing you that I am closing properties. I'm not just saying I close 50, 60 properties a year. I'm showing you with the sold sign that I'm doing that. And then I started putting all the listing photos on, and then I would start doing, and then everybody adopted to that and started doing that. So, Tom Ferry says, as soon as you start something new, a window opens. The longer that it's out there, that window of effectiveness starts to slide to a close because more people are doing it. When it's new, it's revolutionary, it's very effective. And then people start doing it, the effectiveness goes away. So when social media came out, I started doing those things, and I migrated over to doing coming soon stuff. And our MLS was up in the arms, and we were talking about coming soon. And then I started doing videos of just putting the lockbox on because someone that's never bought a house before, never listed a house, has no idea the simple intricacies we do as a realtor all day long. So everything became social media, and then it got a following of my colleagues, which I'm okay with realtors following me. I want them to know that I know what I'm doing. I want them to know that 123 Anywhere Street is coming on the market. I'm getting it ready. I'm going to put new carpet in or whatever. And that's the type of stuff on social media that it had some resistance. Like all these people would be like, "Oh, he's an idiot. What is he doing that for?" And then 2 years later, they're all doing it. And that's what gets business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, that's one of the things too, is you always want to zig when everybody else is zagging, right? Because once they start following you, then now you need to adapt and stay fresh because you don't want to water down your brand. And I love that, you go with the Brian Sells Pittsburgh. You've created that persona for yourself, right? And, that is a brand. And so when did you start Brian Sells Pittsburgh?
So I'm going to go back to the CRS classes. Those guys taught me branding, and the one guy had Jason Sells Florida, whatever. So I immediately thought it's important to know for buyers and sellers to know who I am, Brian. What am I doing selling? Where is it at, Pittsburgh, and what is it, real estate? So that's why I adopted Brian Sells Pittsburgh Real Estate. I think this is my YouTube and my Facebook. But the real estate kind of gets truncated off because it just being a little bit too long. But there's no guessing. There's no guessing who I am, what I do, and where I do it at.
And so, I definitely noticed that, I looked at all your social media, and you're definitely on quite a few platforms and everything. So which one has been, so far has been the best for you? And do you see one, growing in popularity for you and helping you grow your lead generation and your business?
So that is an awesome question, and I love answering this question. So it moves. Initially, it was Facebook because it was new, and then the younger demographic, got off of Facebook and went to Instagram, and then LinkedIn fixed themselves. They were clunky and hard to use. So I don't know if Facebook bought them, whatever, but they fixed themselves. So Facebook was my biggest success, but I'm starting to move into Instagram more, and I've even gotten $1 million listing off of LinkedIn, because if you think about LinkedIn, it's all business professionals. There's no kids on there at all. No cat videos. It's usually all serious stuff. But Facebook's also good because the older demographic has now discovered it. So Facebook has never really lost viewership. It's just shifted. And I think it's, Tom Ferry taught us again, your lead generation is like a table with multiple legs. You don't just want to have one leg. You want to have at least 4 or 5 legs. So if an algorithm changes and it goes away, you still have a couple other lead sources that are feeding you leads. So social media, open house, referrals, past sphere of influence, etc.
And do you track your business very closely? I mean, do you track exactly where each lead and closing came from?
Now I know you should. So I wavered on lying to you and saying yes, but I figured you'd do a follow-up question and bust me. So I'm just going to say I don't follow up on any, and I don't track it at all. As long as it's still coming in, I honestly don't care where it's going. And I don't spend a lot of money. Like, I don't spend any money on Zillow. I don't really spend any money on Facebook. I really don't spend it. If I spent money on it, I would probably track it. But again, I have a lot of new agents asking me all these questions, and I was answering them about how I do things now. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. The way I do things now at a $20+ million producer is different than where they are, which is under $1 million producer. So you can't really, even though we're in the same game, football, there's punters and then there's Tom Brady's. There's people making hundreds of millions of dollars and some that are just barely making millions, but we're still playing the same game. So you can't look at a top producer in your market and say, I'm going to do that now, because they run it differently. Like, you wouldn't catch me dead knocking on doors Saturday before an open house with a flyer in 95-degree weather. I mean, I just wouldn't be doing that now, because you just don't have to.
So that's actually a fascinating thing that you just said, that you don't even really spend much money on Facebook. So how are you using Facebook to lead gen then?
I mean, honestly, my plan has never changed. I still do solds. I tweak it a little bit. I still do just listed. I still do solds. I change things in the way I did it. I had a professional photographer now. So I don't take photos with my Samsung phone with a wide angle lens anymore. I have 3 tiers of professional photographers: luxury, middle, and then just stuff that's not very nice. And they charge me different. They're different levels, different qualifications. So that has helped me out as well. We have these twilight photos that attract people's attention. Video came into play, so I put video all over social media. I do my solds, and I put, for the listing, I put all of the stats there: days on market, list, and it's good now because it's a seller's market. So you're days on market 0, how many offers 5, sell price to list price ratio 120%. You know what I mean? So I'm putting all these stats up, and again, I think if you can prove that you are a baller, that you are successful, instead of just running your mouth and saying you are, if you can prove it, it's hard for a buyer or seller not to reach out to you. And I have them DM me and say, hey, can you take on another buyer? Hey, can you take on another seller? How much money did I spend on that? I spend $0 on marketing. That's why social media is such a gift for realtors, any salespeople, really.
Now, the one thing I definitely saw is, you're very active in content creation when it comes to video, especially now. And went through and watched some videos. I think you were voted the 8th best listing videos. So
Yep.
how are you doing a listing video on every single property?
So before Corona, no, just a price point that would substantiate the expense. It wouldn't make any sense for a $100,000 listing to be dropping $700 on a video, and you got to make sure the house is relatively the house qualifies to have a video. Like, if you have a hoarder, you don't want to be doing a video tour. Now, that being said, so there's pre-Corona, I think they're calling it PC, DC during Corona, and AC after Corona. So DC during Corona, I'm doing video walkthroughs of every house. I have a 3D guy. It's not the actual Matterport, but they're starting to make systems that are a lot cheaper, a lot more DIY. So we have a guy in our office for $100 that will do the walkthrough. So yeah, right. I mean, I think I get a bulk discount and an early adopter discount. I think it'll be more than that. But so I'm going to have some sort of video tour for every listing because of the COVID-19, and we just don't know, and germaphobes and all that.
Yeah, I definitely saw the one of the video walkthroughs, and I like that you do like the voiceover as you go through it. And again, I think that one of my biggest things that we talk about with agents is people want to do business with people they like, and just seeing an ad isn't enough. Video and audio now is something that's really, really important in terms of showing me who you are and allowing me to connect with you. And I think that's really important. So I really like that touch that you had. I loved one of your listing videos where you actually showed off the workout room, and you actually deadlift some weight, right? And I think that was really fun. Yeah. Where it was, hey, maybe I'm not in the market for that that luxury listing there. However, I really liked your personality. I connected with that and was like, hey, this guy's a lot of fun. And then I always say that people buy on emotion and justify on logic. Hey, I like you. I'm going to use you now because that was funny and lighthearted and everything. But really, I'm using him because, well, he's a top producer. He does over $20 million. He's number 22 overall last year, right? But your personality coming through video and the audio and everything is what is going to help connect with more people.
Video is just, I mean, I can't say enough. We don't have enough time in the day to talk about video. I mean, I've had realtors that I've met in person at a real producers event say to me, this is the first time we've ever talked face to face, but I've been watching your videos for years and I feel like I know you. You can better believe that a seller is going to be attracted to that. And then again, so we had other realtors starting to do videos. I just would send my videographer, I would connect him with the seller. It would be so easy. And they would handle it on themselves. He'd go out there and film it. He'd make the flashy stuff with the music on and send it to me. And then everybody started doing that. So the effectiveness went down, and CRS taught me about differentiation. What differentiates you from the next realtor? So then everybody started doing videos. So now I started getting in the videos. I'm not going to hire an actor. So I just went in the videos and pointed out the highlights, the top 3 highlights. Does it have a pool? Does it have a weight room? Does it have a 4-car garage? We'll do something like that. And now it's even evolved to the sellers want to be in the video. So I have one video around Christmas time where my videographer time-lapse their 2 small kids. And it's a great thing for them to give their kids years from now this video, them selling the family house. They were decorating the tree, time-lapsing it. And I would just pop in and say, great family house. Look at the Christmas time, or whatever I said. Then I popped out of the frame. Huge hit. And then we had a house that had an unfinished basement. They had it listed with somebody else. Another realtor couldn't get it sold. So I said, let's show off the unfinished basement. This is the same family, had 2 small kids. So they were down there riding bicycles in the basement and kicking balls anywhere, not worried about breaking stuff, because you can't do that in a finished basement. But in an unfinished basement, you could. So we took that negative and kind of turned it into a positive. In the video, it showed it. And if you think a seller's not going to look at that, another seller, 6 other sellers, 10 other sellers, and think, this person's creative. I've got a problem in my house that it's going to be in trouble. Let's get this guy over here. And we know he's going to do a video.
Well, and I think that's awesome too. You were able to turn, not only your marketing material, you turn your marketing material into a closing gift too. And I think that's super unique. And again, talk about memorable. And again, how many people are going to talk about that? And it's those simple conversations where, you start talking to somebody and one person refers a client or an agent and says, oh, what'd your agent do? Oh, they put my house on the MLS. Well, what'd your agent do? Oh, they had my family in this video and gave it to us, and we were able to go do this fun creative marketing. The kids were so excited to be, superstars and everything. So I think that's amazing, that differentiator right there in terms of, like you said, you just made it fun and creative, and it's going to be incredibly memorable.
Well, I mean, it's super. And the funny thing was, it's the next door neighbor of a house I previously sold. So both of these are in the $600,000 price point. I actually did one house, and they had adult kids. They were in the pool. It was hot. It was a really hot day. They were playing like volleyball back and forth in the pool. And then I had the parents down in a $150,000 finished basement sipping on wine. And we had that in the video. Sold the house right away, multiple offers. And then the house next door was listed with somebody else. They couldn't sell it. So they saw that video and how quick everything went. And then they hired me. So I was at $1.2 million in agents. You can do the percentage on that, 2.5%, whatever your takeaway is, for $700 video on each one. Plus some photo, all in, I was probably $1,200 in on cost between professional photos and video. That's it. And again, you do the math on what the numbers were.
And so that was actually going to be one of my next questions is, so do you actually have a videographer on staff, or you just shop it all out?
So I'm lucky. I have a videographer that when he started, I employed him and I taught him some things on business because they were new to everything. They're young kids, so I kind of gave them some business tips on how to run a business, and I gave them all my videos, and I would even post in the comments section who did the video, and a lot of people would like to keep that under wraps. Oh, you can't, I don't want you to know who my videographer was. So I did the opposite. I'm like, here, I'm going to tell the world who did the videos, and they gave me intro level pricing, and they have kept my pricing like that when they're charging other people, as they should, exponentially more. So I don't have anybody on staff. Same with the photographers. I kind of started with him. He actually reached out to me through Facebook DM, and usually spam stuff, I'm just ignoring it. But whatever reason, something told me to look at him, and I looked at all his stuff that he's doing, and it wasn't real estate stuff. It was like stuff of Pittsburgh or whatever. And I was like, let's do this. So then I groomed him along how I wanted things. Toilet seats down. You got to be, get the whole breath of stuff they didn't know as a realtor. And they've kept my prices down, and now they have they've grown their business exponentially.
That's fantastic. And again, I'm sure that, if they want to go buy a commercial space or whatever and expand the business, you're going to be able to get that phone call. So, so you talk about kind of differentiation and now everybody's starting to do videos. So what are you switching to now? What are you doing now to differentiate? What if everybody starts getting on camera for their listing videos too and start lifting weights and kicking soccer balls in basements? Where is your shift? Where's your pivot?
Right. And, that's a very good question. People always ask, oh my God, everybody's going to start doing it. And I say, and I welcome that, because that's what pushes us to be better realtors. At this point, I can tell you being on camera, being in the videos is going to stick for a while, because I've taught video classes all over the place, and everybody is afraid of being on camera. I mean, there's a small percentage of realtors that are willing to go on camera. So I think being in the videos personally is going to stick for a long while, but I have shifted a little bit. I push all my clients to my social media, specifically Instagram, and I do crap tons of Instagram stories where I am, again, coming soon. So if I had an $800,000 listing, whenever I did open houses, I did these like wide angle lens on my cell phone, and I did the master bedroom, the kitchen, a little sweep of the outside, and I put it in my open house noon to 2, and then I would create a highlight out of it, so it would, after 24 hours, it would stick around. So, and then I point sellers to that so they could see that I'm hustling. You hear people say, what are you going to do to not just list my house, but to sell my house? Well, I'm going to show you Instagram stories, expensive videos, drones flying all over the place. So that's kind of where we're at now. I haven't thought of what is the next listing video step to go. But I mean, that was whenever I started taking myself out or leaving myself in a little bit, but by bringing the client in and starring in their own video. And that's still relatively new. And I can't say I've seen anybody in Pittsburgh do that. So I guess that would be the next step, is bring your clients in. Some have said no. Who cares? Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right?
Wayne Gretzky, 100% of the shots you don't take.
Absolutely. So are you doing anything in terms of, I know you're obviously on a podcast right now, but are you doing anything with podcasting right now?
So I've been doing Instagram live interviews about COVID-19. I'm quarantined down here in Miami. Once I knew we were going to be quarantined, I jumped on a plane and came down to an Airbnb down here. And I took a couple of weeks off just to do nothing. But now every other day on my Instagram live, I am interviewing a top agent, a lender, a finance guy, my videographer. I'm going to probably do my home inspector, and tomorrow I'm doing my closing company. And what I do is I record that. I do the Instagram live on my phone with the tripod with the beach in the background to get everybody's attention. And then after it's over, I play it on my iPad and I screen record it. And then from there, I put it on my YouTube. I cut it down to 9 minutes and 49 seconds, put it on Instagram TV, put it on LinkedIn, and then I upload it to my Facebook business, share it to my Facebook personal. Then I uploaded the bomb and share out the whole video to my email blast. So I was doing some research on YouTube, and it's called cross marketing or something like that, repurposing this stuff instead of just letting it disappear after 24 hours. So, and that's just kind of keeping me top of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest overlooked social media platforms is YouTube. Most people don't think of YouTube as a social media platform, but guess what? You're getting on there and you're watching people and commenting on things and liking things. that's social media. So I think that, YouTube is definitely the biggest missed opportunity. I know one of the things I really like that I'm curious about if you get much interaction from is I really like you do kind of like a 1 minute topic on social or on real estate, whether it be talking about an appraisal or what to expect in closings. And I think it's fantastic because it's small, digestible content, right? So do you get a lot of feedback from those little like how-to and quick tips and educational pieces?
Absolutely. Again, Tom Ferry said, if you find yourself repeating the same answer to the same question, make a video about it. So I made a video library. One time I took the agreement of sale. I don't know, it's called something different in every market, but our purchase agreement. And I just looked at each line and I said, let's just make a 1 minute video because it's under a minute. And at that point in time, that's all Instagram would allow you to do was a 1 minute post. So I kept it to 1 minute, and you'd be surprised. It keeps the fat out of the conversation. You just get to the point when it's a 1 minute thing. So I talk about an appraisal contingency. I talk about hand money, and I build that library on YouTube. And sometimes I have people reach out to me and said, "Listen, we want to work with you. We've already checked your YouTube channel out, and we see you've already given us a ton of information." Or if a client will ask me, what happens with the hand money if we don't like the house? I just grab that YouTube link and send it off to them. I don't have to repeat it. I don't have to have a phone call. I just send them to the library that's created.
That's fantastic. Must make your life much easier as well.
Listen, so I'm lazy. Some people my personal family understands that. People that don't know me, like, you're not lazy, you're selling all these houses. Listen, I make it as hands off as possible. Like, I don't even accept phone calls. If you call me, it goes right to my voicemail, and I reply with a text or an email because I have something video created to answer your question already, probably. And I even do my marketing, my CMAs like that. I'll record my screen using Screencast, doing the comps and all that. It generates a link, and I send it out to the sellers. And that was before Corona, and I think it's going to be even more prevalent now with COVID-19.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great thing that you just said that I really want people to take away is you decide to create content by just pulling out your purchase agreement and going, I'm going to make a video on this one little piece. I'm going to break it down and I'm going to spoon feed the baby birds. And I think that that's fantastic. I see a lot of agents that will share, 10 things to do while in your house during COVID-19, and I'm like, don't let that person be the one getting the credit for sharing that content and that information. You be the one. Pull each one out and do a quick 30-second, 1-minute video, and you be the content creator and the entertainer and the educator in that system. So anything that you can look at and go, this real estate related or this may be interesting content for people, instead of sharing it and just letting some other website get credit for it, you pull it out, create a video, whatever, and send it out yourself, and you be the one that's top of mind and the one that's creating the value.
100%. And I'll never forget when I first got my license, I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what a walkout basement was. My mentor, Mark Hanlovich, ERA, said, a client asked me a question. I had asked him, and he's like, you're the expert. You are the expert. You tell them. And I'm thinking, I am not an expert. I don't know shit about this. But yeah, you are the expert as a realtor. If you don't know it, you're going to know it. If you can create that video, that positions yourself as the expert. And if you've ever been in a buyer transaction or a seller transaction where you're not the boss, the party, the buyer, the seller is the boss, that's a major problem for you. You get run all over. You list the house too high. You don't tell them it smells like dog or whatever. But if they see you educating already, if they've checked out your digital resume, you're going to have less pushback. I got to tell you, my buyers and sellers eat up everything I say. Like, there's 1% every annual year that I might take shit from. But for the most part, I'm the boss on every buyer and seller transaction. They do exactly what I tell them. They write a Zillow review for me, and I reply to that Zillow review. Hey, we were a great team. They identified I'm the expert. I gave them advice. They followed it. We had success.
Yeah, and you are what, the most positively reviewed agent in the Pittsburgh area? So are you?
The whole yeah.
Oh, really? Awesome. So do you actively ask for those referrals or those reviews?
I've got a whole system.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 more questions for you because we've been going for a while, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So my second and last question is going to be, what's the biggest mistake you made in real estate in your career so far?
Biggest mistake I've made, and I think I might even still be making it, is I've kind of, instead of becoming friends with my colleagues, I kind of alienated them by maybe negotiating too tough or taking it personal or giving shit and trying to win, like egocentric, like I've got to win. There's no such thing as both parties losing in negotiation. You lose, I win. I think that's kind of hurt me in my career. So I'm trying to really change that. And one of the ways I do it is when I close a transaction, I put the just sold on my social media. I will publicly thank the other agent for bringing in the buyer or making it a smooth transaction, whatever. So that is definitely my biggest mistake. Was, I don't know, you can call it whatever you want, ego, disrespecting my colleagues, thinking the shit doesn't stink, whatever.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people think that it's you win or you lose in the industry, and it doesn't have to be that way. I always like to say, hey, it's called co-op for a reason, right? You need to cooperate with your the other people in your industry, and again, we do the same thing within title. I mean, we got to work with other title companies, and even right now, I mean, I've been offering during COVID-19, if another title company, if they have somebody else sick and they can't facilitate closings, hey, I'll go and do the signing for you. You guys give me the package, I'll go sign your client for you, to make sure nobody misses out. I don't want a buyer or seller to lose out because of anything. I don't want agents to lose out on their transaction. I don't want that title company to lose out. We're all in this together. So I think that's a great philosophy of just going like, hey, look, you got to understand that it's a co-op, and being a little bit more gentle sometimes, even though you go, I still want to win the negotiation. And then
right, yeah, it's tough to admit, but it's another level of professionalism, like the example you just said. And another agent told me something that sticks with me. In my most recent Instagram live with a shooting star here in Pittsburgh, he said it as well, and that is, no one agent can list and sell every property in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
No one agent can represent every buyer. There's plenty of pie for all of us.
Absolutely. And then last question I'll ask you is, what has been the most satisfying, whether it be transaction or interaction, in your time in the industry?
I think the most recent years where it was so tough to get a buyer a house because there were like 10 offers. From the buyer side, winning, I have so many tools I use for my buyers in multiple offer situations. We have a high percentage winning. Sometimes you just can't win. Winning percentage, but getting those buyers the house, especially since most of them seem to be first-time home buyers, there's nothing more gratifying for that. And then from a seller listing agent standpoint, being able to list a house and have 30 offers on that, I mean, you look like God to these sellers.
That's awesome. Well, Brian, I really appreciate your time. Definitely really interesting, and keep killing it. Hopefully, this all gets lifted very soon, and I mean, I know you're struggling down in Miami, but hopefully we get through this soon, and we get through it safely together. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. If you could send everybody to my social media, Google Brian Sells Pittsburgh. I put out a lot of content that will help other realtors for free.
Awesome. Thank you so much.